This project is about examining how the binomial coefficient can describe grouping objects together and ordering or arrangement. Right. So we've seen in the past that if we have 5 different objects, 5 different letters, in this case, A through E, and I want to take them 2 at a time, I can use the binomial coefficient expression 5 choose 2 and get the number 10. In 10.1, we listed all of the pairs, AB, AC, AD, AE, all the way down to DE. And what I've done is I've given each of these pairs just a grouping number. And kind of the heart of this project is we'll be looking at systematically really listing the sequences that we get in the ordering table, or the orders we get in the ordering table, and matching them to their corresponding grouping number. So this is something we've done in the past, but not to any real great extent. So here, I've already filled in the first 2 rows, and what we're doing here is I'm taking, I've kind of named each position, the first, the second, the third, the fourth, and the fifth, A, B, C, D, and E, right? And that's not that's very much kind of on purpose, all right? You'll see in a little bit. So what we're doing over here is we're looking at, if I have a 5-letter word made out of 2 characters, H and T, I want to find how many arrangements or orders can I have using those 2 letters. And I'm using 2 H's and 3 T's. So it still corresponds to the binomial coefficient, 5 choose 2, so we still get 10 different rows. And what I've chosen to do is I've taken the first row and I've just used the first and the second position for my H's that are clustered next to each other. They're just adjacent. And this entire blue part of the table is going to be just filled with those, and it turns out that there's 4 sequences. So here's the first one, here's the second one, and then it's not that hard to see that the third row will involve H in the third column and the fourth column, and then the next one, or the next row, will involve H in columns D and column E. Now, for the rest of the table, since I've exhausted all the ways I can have a sequence of H's and T's where there's 2 H's and 3 T's, where the 2 H's are next to each other, now I'm going to look at clustering, or kind of a cluster of just 1 H. So an H has to be by itself. So for the first H, I'm going to put it as far to the left as possible. So just in the first position. And note, I can't have an H in the second position. I'm going to put it in the third. All right, so I have H in the first, and then the second H is in the third position. I'm going to do that kind of using this second H kind of as the, I'm going to be moving it around until I run out of possible sequences. So I can have a second row, and I can't use the B column or the C column, but I can use the E column. And I'm going to be able to have one more word where there's an H, where the first H is in the first position, and then I'm going to have an H in the last position. Now I have to move to a sequence where the first position is a T, right? And we can fill in the T's later, since we know there's only 2 characters. Any empty cell is a T. So I'm going to start with H in the second position. I can have H in the third position, but it can be in the fourth one. Again, I can get one more row where H is in the second position, and then the second H is in the last position. And now there's only one more possible word I can create, and this will have H in the third position, and then the first H in the third position, and the last H, or the second H, in the column E here. And so what you'll be doing for your project is taking a look at the other, basically kind of the other part of this phenomenon. We won't be enumerating a grouping of size 2 from 5 objects. You'll be looking at the grouping of size 3 from 5 objects. So there's one more thing we're going to do here, though, is we're going to look at, again, matching rows in the grouping table with rows in the order table. So, and I've added a column at the end of the order table, just so I can take the grouping numbers over here in the grouping table and match them with the corresponding order numbers. So, if we look at the first row of the order table, HH, right, that directly corresponds to the first row of the grouping table, right? Just kind of how that worked out. And what we are really doing is that H and H, note how it takes up positions A and positions B. That matches our grouping AB in the grouping table. So this is 1, right? So that was almost maybe too much of a coincidence. Let's look at what's happening with the second row. So I have to look at where do I get letters corresponding to, or a pair in the grouping table that corresponds to the position of H in the second position and H in the third position. So this is going to be BC. So I'm looking for BC in the grouping, and I have that occurs in the fifth row, or to grouping number 5. So I'll put a 5 here. If I look at the next row in the order table, HH, that's in CD. CD corresponds to the grouping number 8. And then HH corresponds to the grouping number 10, DE. We'll do one in the clustering by 1H part of the table over here. So HH, that would correspond to the grouping AC. So I put A2 here. All right. So when you actually get your file, what will happen is it'll look something like this, where what I've done is I filled out the first couple of at least groupings of size 3 over here, and your job will be to enumerate all the groupings of size 3, all 10 of them, and then actually go back to the order table and enumerate all of the words of size 5 using 3 H's and 2 T's. And so filling out this part of the grouping table, filling out this part of the order table, and then finding out and matching what word in the order what word in the order table corresponds to and matches what grouping number or what group. So and then that's it. It's really just kind of a review of systematic listing, but we're doing it because it immediately ties into material about binomial probabilities in chapter 11. All right. So again, I'm throwing this up because if you weren't there in class this week, I wanted you guys to have somewhat of an explanation. And if you're still having trouble, you can email me or talk about it in class next week.